Do you believe that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited planet Earth?
I think you can go a step further. It hasn't just visited, it's been here a long time, and it's still here.
My name is Alex Klokus. I'm an entrepreneur and investor at SALT. And about 2 years ago, I brought Dr. Garry Nolan, who's a tenured Stanford professor, to SALT. And I asked him,
If you had to assign a probability to that statement, what probability would you assign?
100%.
and that idea that a prestigious, world-recognized scientist would make a statement that he is 100% confident blew my mind.
That statement seems so incredible that it's tough to believe. Maybe a lot of people here hear that and they don't believe it.
A year later, I brought Colonel Karl Nell to SALT. Karl's had a decorated career leading our military at the highest levels, and he certainly did not mince words.
Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing.
How confident are you that that is true?
There's zero doubt.
If their statements are true, it completely defies our current understanding of reality. The problem, however, is that both Dr. Nolan and Colonel Nell, they're kind of secondhand sources. And so we continued to push further. And ultimately, we found those primary sources. We found folks that are actually on the crash recovery team. They have been around, they have held, and they have transported supposed craft of non-human origin. Their claims are so bold and extraordinary that they truly are tough to believe. So we set up an initiative to go one step further. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. At Skywatcher, we've set out to prove it. First, let's meet Jacob Barber. Jacob Barber is a dedicated patriot who has served his country for 30 years, working both overtly and covertly for multiple agencies within the Department of Defense, the Department of the Interior, and the private sector. Jake was recruited into Air Force Special Warfare in the 1990s, and then transitioned to the broader intelligence community as a contractor in the early 2000s.
Hello, Jake.
Hello, Alex.
I really appreciate you sitting down to have a chat with me.
Man, absolutely. I appreciate you giving me the invitation.
So, Jake, do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has been visiting this planet?
Well, yes, I do.
And when you make that claim, Jake, how confident are you that claim is true?
I'm 100% confident that that claim is true.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, let's dive into that a little bit. So
Okay.
you were involved in some form of crash recovery projects that involved frontier experimental tech from the US government.
So the crash part of it, crash sounds like something that's unintentional, let's say. So the reason you would have a crash recovery program to begin with, a broad crash recovery program, you wouldn't set up a program like that in order to go get exotic or non-human aircraft. So teams are set up and trained and outfitted with all the tools and techniques and training, 3 T's, in order to facilitate that mission. So if, hypothetically, something ridiculous were to happen and something of exotic nature were to crash, you're going to call the people that have the most experience with that, and they're going to be the ones you deploy. And I'll add a 4th T to that, which is trust. And because of our particular past and history, we had the trust of the U.S. government, and we were deployed on particular tasks, which included the recovery of exotic craft of non-human origin that were connected.
If I could interject there for 1 second, what about the craft made you so certain that it was non-human in origin?
Well, first of all, it was the reaction of our entire crew and our leadership structure. So it was atypical from how we would communicate and treat any other crash recovery. And then the object or technology itself was something that was inconceivable as being man-made from my perspective and the perspective of my teammates.
What made it inconceivable though?
Inconceivable was that visually completely abstract.
Yeah.
But abstract in a very specific way. And what I mean by saying that is it's abstract with a consistent public idea of what an abstract aircraft would look like.
So Jake, I mean, what does that mean, man? When you say abstract, you say there's something crazy about these aircraft. I mean, like what? Like, can you? I'm sure there's a lot of stuff you can't talk about. A disc.
A metallic egg.
Okay, a metallic egg. And do you have any idea, like, how these craft were piloted or kind of controlled?
Well, it was obvious that this crash recovery effort was coordinated with another program that had to do with an interest in how consciousness had an impact or could interface with technology.
Yeah.
We were also invited to be part of a program that dealt with the research and development of the building of a system in which a particular human, not non-human, a particular human with a disposition and talent for manipulating their own consciousness could interface with certain technology. So there's a certain effort to reverse engineer these craft. That effort very quickly led to the idea that the power plant for these systems and the interface to manipulate that power plant wasn't done through a mechanical interface of levers of phalanges in order to manipulate control systems. It was done through the mind.
Not only do we have people from the actual crash recovery team, we have another team. They're called the psionics team. There seems to be a subset of people that have the unique ability to actually summon these craft, to be able to focus their thoughts and make objects appear in the sky.
Jordan, I really appreciate you joining us here today.
Alex, it's an honor to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
So maybe let's start by sharing a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So most recently, I worked in the space technology space, a little bit of data science, ultimately taking different imagery types and trying to solve solutions for the utility industry.
I'm curious, by chance, do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet?
I am certain of that.
You're certain? How certain are you?
100%.
I mean, Jordan, that's a pretty bold statement. Where does that certainty come from?
That certainty comes from my firsthand experience in what I term a psionic exploitation program between the years of 2005 and 2010, where I interfaced and worked with non-human intelligence and things like UAP directly.
I mean, Jordan, that is an incredible claim. For the viewer at home, what were you doing in this program on a daily basis?
Yeah, so this would look at like things that many people would consider woo-woo-y, right? Like astral projection or meditation. But ultimately, what we were really investigating was how far could we stretch the bounds of human consciousness. Beyond that, how could we get human consciousness to interface directly with things like recovered materials and recovered crafts? What I can tell you from the craft and some of the different projects that we worked on directly is ultimately that they interfaced with us. What I mean by that is my consciousness could project into these craft and recovered materials and then access a suite of commands, essentially capabilities to do various things, including piloting. But ultimately, the story is not about piloting some UAP with your mind. This story is much more about what is consciousness?
Yeah.
Why can we interface with these things?
Do you have material that supports these claims?
I have tons of material, linearly autobiographical records that will support my claims.
And Jake, for the listener at home, based on your firsthand experience, there are craft of non-human origin that you have recovered that seem to be piloted or interfacing directly with human consciousness. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me tell you a very short story.
Okay.
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 An aircraft crashed.
Yeah.
My team was deployed.
Yeah.
We secured the perimeter.
Yeah.
We secured that target.
Yeah.
We transported that target. We escorted that target and provided security for that target. That target was transported to a facility of a very well-known government-private partner. The decision was made to bring in a team that represented a different private partner who was working on consciousness and the mechanism by which humans could interface with technology. The two were merged, and we were involved with that process.
You were involved in that process?
Yes.
So, Jake, based on your firsthand experience, it sounds
Oh my God, there's that word, firsthand. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is firsthand.
It is firsthand.
It is firsthand.
Yeah.
Based on your firsthand experience, it sounds like we're living in a science fiction novel, and there seem to be craft of non-human origin that are flying around our skies, and certain human consciousnesses seem to be able to interface with these craft. And there are organizations or institutions, if you will, all around the world that know this fact.
Yeah. Isn't it depressing that should be shocking?
It is very depressing, yeah.
That shouldn't be shocking. Thank God, like, you know what? I mean, forgive me, but I'm over that.
Yeah.
So, like, let's get past that, because that is the case, and it is exciting, but we have a duty here. We have a moment in time, thanks to friends like David Grusch, who has stuck his neck out and paved a trail with our government, who, for better or worse, has control over a lot of things. This is an opportunity for everyone to make a situation appear where we realize that our consciousness has an impact on our everyday life. I can tell you that this is not unique to the United States, and it's not unique to the most well-known private partners of the Department of Defense and the intelligence community. There is a global effort and interest in this, and a global capability in doing this. Crash recovery is something, and reverse engineering is something that is being done by a number of agencies or organizations worldwide. And I know that because my team has been sought after and offered jobs to go perform our services for employers outside the United States. Yeah.
There seem to be a lot of people that are making incredible claims. And so we took all of these individuals that were making these claims, and we said, prove it. You claim that we can summon things in the sky? Prove it to us. We've got the sensors, we've got the team, we've now assembled everyone, and we've asked these folks to show us and actually verify what they're saying. And so here we are. We are here in the California desert, and we've assembled a group of about 15 people. We have a variety of different units within the group, including a sensor and data team, an operations team, a psionics team, and a scientific team led by Dr. Garry Nolan. And we are here to see what happens. We are going to spend 3 days together, leveraging the psionics team, seeing if we can actually make something appear in the sky, seeing if we can track it, seeing if we can actually gather data and verify these supposed claims.
Okay, so when the Psi team gets eyes on a UAP, they'll let me know in relation to where it's at over the city, and then I'll essentially go to that place, see if I can get my soda straw camera, so very focused in camera, to see if we can pull out any key ID features, any kind of details of the craft that make it unique.
Everybody's heard of flying saucers and alien technology and everything else. This project is aimed to prove what has not been proved in years past, It's to gather substantial evidence to show the American populace that there are substantial alien life and craft and everything else flying around. My name's Dan Flexenar. I'm Air Force. I've been in special tactics for 20 years now. I've been in charge of rescue and recovery and medical operations for specialized teams throughout my career, and now currently moving into more of a civilian world for this.
Yeah, so I'm 20-year Air Force Special Warfare. I joined in 2000 as a combat controller. Very air-centric, very aware of what's going on up above. Basically a translator for the two between ground forces and guys that are up there. I've seen a lot of things that I just cannot explain.
Here we are, and I'm not really sure what to expect, to be honest. I think when you talk to the teams, they have unwavering conviction that something is going to happen, that we're actually going to see things in the sky. Not only do they think that we're going to see things in the sky, but we're going to be able to track it. We're going to be able to actually gather a variety of different data related to this thing.
My name is Michael Batista. I'm 32 years old, and I'm a former U.S. Army Green Beret, 3rd Group.
And Mike, do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has been visiting this planet?
Yes, I do.
When you make that statement, how confident are you that is true?
I'm extremely confident.
Do you feel like you believe that is true, or do you feel like you know that is true?
I know that it's true.
When did your experience with the phenomena begin?
The first experiences I was having was in my early teens, and it started to accelerate as I grew up. And as my time in the military was ending and I was getting out, it really accelerated at that point.
And when this happens, can you explain how it usually manifests or how you experience it?
It usually manifests as something anomalous in the sky, orbs, crafts, different pyramid-looking objects moving at extreme rates of speed and doing very angular movements.
When you do this, are there other people around? Do they actually see you doing this?
I have multiple witnesses that can testify that that is a fact.
And how many times do you feel like you've been able to summon something in the sky?
Anytime I want.
I think that the kind of belief of the team is very important. I think that we've assembled all of the folks that have done this before, and what we're doing does not seem to be new. In fact, it seems as though there's various groups that have been doing this to some degree for quite a while.
Look, there's two. Look at this, look at this, look right here. Look at this one going down and this one going up. Oh, motherfucker.
So the items that we saw last night could maybe be explained as satellites in some instances or space trash, but really when we started seeing erratic movement, we started seeing some vertical tracks, and then tracks going from like left to right in the sky, west to east, and then go again vertical. And then we saw the tracks change course, direction, and speed. So I think that's a piloted aircraft of some sort. I think it's either an intelligent being or it's being told what to do. Didn't flash. It got brighter when it maybe had a reflective surface. I don't know exactly what it was. There's a few explanations of why that could be, but I see those in a varying range of places, from Emporia, Virginia to Fayetteville to here. I've seen them everywhere. Only explanation I have is that it could be reflective light or particles that are in our inner atmosphere. But besides that, when they start moving and tracking in different directions, I think we're seeing some sort of craft of some sort.
During our time together, all 15 of us saw some form of unusual lights in the sky. These lights would randomly appear, stay for some short period, and then disappear. Oftentimes, multiple lights would seem to appear at once. They would frequently move in patterns or angles that, at least to me, seemed unusual for a plane, satellite, meteor, or space debris. But I am no expert. On the last day, however, one thing did happen.
We had a couple of our folks that felt like it was a good time to try to communicate with potentially a craft or an entity that was out there through the methods that they use. You know, I just took a spot up on the roof to be able to observe what's out and around us, and then also have another set of eyes that are up above us. So got on the roof to say, you know, I'll be up here, had my phone, you know, let's be ready to record if something went down, and it did.
The psionic team claimed to be connecting with an object, and our sensor data caught this. While this was happening, Fred went up to see if he could see anything with his naked eye.
So I can hear them talking through certain things, and then he said something like, it's forming. As soon as he said that, I stepped out to look behind me, and that's when I saw whatever it was.
Suddenly, Fred saw a second object appear above our base camp.
It was all gray, matte, like not shiny at all. It was elongated oval where it looked like there was, you know, the opposite of a seam bursting out in the middle, going all the way around, and so it looked like a rim, because the bottom half of it was extremely dark. It made absolutely no sound, which doesn't make sense because of its proximity. Like, if it was small, if it was something maybe the size of this razor, then it was really close. We're talking 500-600 feet. If it was larger, which I kind of believe that's what it was, you're looking at 5 to 8 meters long, then probably around 1,500, 2,000 feet altitude, moving north to south. You know, it looked sturdy, it looked heavy. Wasn't a bird. You know, if it were an aircraft, any kind of conventional thing that we have now, it would have rocked us at how low it was. So 20 years in the Air Force and never even seen anything close to that. Nothing. There was no observable propulsion. There was no wings. There was no rotor. With that kind of speed, you should hear something, especially if it was that close. So I was shaking. Like, it was super exciting. I mean, I'm not going to start shaking over an F-16 flying overhead or a bird dive bombing. That was incredible. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Dr. Nolan was there, and this was his perspective.
I personally didn't see anything in the sky or on the ground, but what I did see was an individual who, in the midst of attempting to call such an object, exactly at the moment that he said he was interacting with something, the individual on the roof who had the cameras saw something. When we reviewed what it was that the person on the roof had seen, something showed up. I mean, it was fleeting, but it was clearly not a bug. And so what do I have? I have a person who claims to be doing something. It was clear that he was in distress at the moment of the supposed interaction. And at that moment, something is seen. What do you have? You have a correlation.
So we have an egg-shaped object that our sensors caught moving in one direction, supposedly connected to our psionics team, and a disc-shaped object that Fred reportedly saw moving in a different direction. We worked with an animator to specifically visualize the disc that Fred saw. This is a recreation from his vantage point. For reference, this is what he believes the disc looked like, and this is the speed we calculated the disc was moving over the building. Our experience raises a lot of questions that we don't yet have the answer to.
I was there not to provide any conclusions. I was there to make sure that everything that was being done in a scientifically accurate way, as dispassionately as possible, and to be part of the advisor team to make sure that this was done in a way that at some point, if it ever wanted to be put together into a scientific paper, we had collected the kind of metadata required to say, well, we might not have a conclusion, but here is at least a story that tells us that the data which we're providing to perhaps some future event might be looked back to and said, oh, well, what happened there worked, that didn't work, so let's try this again so that we can perhaps make it repeatable.
Don Paul, who was also present at the event, had this to say.
Well, I think it's pretty standard fare. There's certain things that the rational mind could attribute to it. Could be this or it could be that. But there are also things which move in ways which do not fit the normal laws of physics or aerodynamics. This is something that's pretty well known at this point. It goes way back in history. I have a combined 25 years law enforcement and military background prior to becoming involved in the similar endeavors in the private sector. It's very hard for people who have seen and experienced things to discuss it, because even our own loved ones, you don't want people to think you're crazy and there's something wrong with you. Which it's one thing if you see it on a Netflix special, or if you have read about it or seen clips on TV. If you see it for real, it kind of changes your mindset about stuff. And I have, because of my military background, worked around a lot of aircraft, helicopters, fast movers. There are certain vehicles that move in ways which are not consistent with the regular physics of what we consider aircraft in the conventional sense. There's a difference between believing and knowing. And you want to work with people who know things, so there is no question about the validity. Now it's a matter down to the nuts and bolts of how do we produce the evidence we need to make it approachable for everyone.
The flow of information now seems to be inevitable.
Yeah.
You cannot keep the truth from people. And it seems like reality is just far more complex than people realize.
Yeah, it is. In this process, I've moved from a very pragmatic person, having very pragmatic responsibilities, to be burdened with things that are more abstract and cerebral.
Yeah.
But still having to keep my foot in the pragmatic world, and that's that's a tough thing, because it's so it's the truth can be distracting in that way. We are in a world right now where we're battling over resources.
Yeah.
And if we can use that technology, or if we can understand a way to interface with technology to create energy systems that can supply for our basic needs, then we're all better off.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And it feels like we're on the precipice of entering a new reality. And I really appreciate everything you're doing, and I'm excited to hopefully make a dent alongside you.
Yeah, let's make some dents.
Let's do it, man. Let's
All
fucking
right.
do it.
To dents.
To dents.
During our time together, there were multiple events that caused me to seriously question certain assumptions I have about reality. The day we were wrapping up our event, something incredible happened. There was a mass UAP sighting directly in the area where we ran our operation. There were dozens of claims on neighborhood apps of residents seeing anomalous things in the sky. The story picked up steam, and in a few days there were thousands of tweets about the incident. The FAA even imposed a temporary flight restriction over the area where we ran our operation. Is this causation? Did we cause this event? Is this correlation, or was it purely coincidental? We don't profess to have all the answers, but we do believe it's imperative that we find out. So we've set up Skywatcher, and this is only the beginning. Skywatcher is not a media company. It is a robust, well-financed initiative focused on validating or invalidating these supposed claims. We invite you to join us in this initiative, and we intend to share all our findings. Because perhaps, in order for us to actually level up, we need to acknowledge that reality is much more than it seems.